certainly welcome each and every one of you, those who are in the house, those who will be coming in as we proceed in the Torah teaching and Torah study on today. And then those who are picking this up live as we go live, as well as those who will watch this at their convenience, whether it's morning, noon, or night. If it's morning, Boker Tov. If it's a new day, you watch this, we say Todah for Baruch Yom. And we certainly pray that words will be spoken on today that will generate thought and also cause you to react to the Torah, to the Word. There's many times the Word, we read it, and it's just words on a book. It's just words in a book. It's just letters on a page, and it's not. It's not making a difference in your life like it's supposed to. When Abba Yah spoke his word, his word, he said it goes out from his mouth. It will not return unto him void. It was going to accomplish everything that it is set out to accomplish. And so as we stand before you today, we're standing at a time where it's a very dark day. I'm sure many of you heard the news, been keeping up with the news, and a right-wing pundit was assassinated today in Utah. And this is just the climate, the type of nation that we live in. There's a lot of what is I think the scripture says, if you live by the sword, you're going to die by the sword. And this is a country that lives by the sword. They live by the gun. It is the only country in the world that has over 700 military bases around the world. We are an empire. We are imperial. Whether they want to admit it or not, we are. We are the nation that currently controls the financial markets. That's very powerful. They're trying to break from the dollar. You've got a nation nations called BRICS, and it hasn't formed in the last year, 2 years. It's been here for a number of years, but they're trying to offer another alternative to the dollar as far as everything being backed by the dollar. It is impossible to see United States in its pomp and glory and not know that it is in the Bible as being the daughter of Babylon. When you look at the characteristics of this country and how they want to spread their democracy is what they call it, but they want to spread it around the world. They want every nation to be like this nation. And there's been other nations in the past that have done that. This is not, it's not new. You can go back to the Roman Empire. You can go back to the Greek Empire, the great Greek society. What did they want? They wanted everybody to be like the Greeks. They call it Hellenism. They went around to convert all countries that they conquered and to put the Greek culture on them, and it was called Hellenism. And so, even before that, you had the Medes, Persians, you had Babylon. You go all the way back. You go all the way back to Nimrod, who was a world dictator. So what you see with the United States and what we're doing now is it's not anything new, but this is the last day, and this is the world empire. When Yahusha talked about when you see all these things come to pass, you know that this is the day that this generation is not going to pass. And so we see everything lining up. We see everything lining up. And he even said there will be signs in the heavens. Is there a sign in the heavens now?
Blood moon.
We had the blood moon the other day. Yeah, September 7th, September 8th was a blood moon. Anything else out there in the heavens? Three-eye Atlas. They've got something, and they said it's a comet, but now it's just it doesn't act. It doesn't have the characteristics of a comet. It's not acting like a comet, and so they're trying to get it figured out. Some people in NASA are a little worried. It's instead of having a tail, the tail was in front of it. They said it wasn't made of any kind of material that they know of, and so there's just a lot of mysterious things going on out there. But that's what our Messiah said. He said there would be signs in the Shamayim, but we're not to be dismayed by it, right? We're not supposed to be dismayed by it. We're supposed to just go on and occupy until our Messiah comes. And that's the command on our life, is to occupy until he comes. Now, the disciples in the first century thought that he would return in their day. They really did. Shaul thought he would witness the return. But when he got down to his last couple of years in prison, he realized he's not gonna come in my day. He's not gonna come in my day. And so all of us, I think if Shaul would return, he would wonder, time's still going on? Y'all still, he would try to figure out what excuse me, what is going on. But we are that, excuse me, we are that generation that is going to witness these things. And so we want to prepare ourselves. In Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 14, thank you. I'm going to read 14 and 15. Jeremiah 3, 14 and 15. And it says, "Turn, O backsliding children, saith Yahuwah, for I am married unto you, and I will take you one of a city and two of a family, and I will bring you to Zion. And I will give you Rahaz." They put pastor, but it's Rahaz. Even in some of the older texts, it's shepherd or Raha, but because it's the English translation, they translated it to pastors. "But I give you Rahaz according to my heart, which shall feed you with knowledge and understanding." The purpose of the teacher, the feeder, the Raha, the shepherd, the pastor, the elder, the Zakim, is the Moreh, is to feed you with knowledge and understanding. It is to care. That's how you care for a flock. That's how a shepherd cares for a flock, is he guards them with knowledge and understanding. It's not a dictatorship, but you must learn how to live, how to present yourselves. You have to learn in the time that's given you, you have to learn and prepare yourself for one main event. One main event, and that event is when you meet your Messiah, your Maker, and when you have to stand before him and give an account for your life. So all your life, everything that you're doing now, even you have the community that is made up of families, and families are made up of a father, a mother. Before you're a father or a mother, you're a bride or bridegroom. You know, it's the bridegroom, the bride, the man, the woman, the husband, the wife. They turn into a father and a mother because they have children, and then you have the children, the family, and this is what makes up the community. Then you have the community. You have the community at large. You have the community proper, and so. But from your whole life, from the time of your birth to the time of your departure, your whole life is a preparation for the most important event. And you know, a lot of times when you look at life, there's three main events. There's the birth, there's the marriage, and then there's the death. And usually at those three events, you'll see the Raha, or the pastor, or the elder, or the Zakin, the Moreh. They're usually involved in all three of those important events in a life. The birth, the marriage, and the death. But through that whole process, you should be preparing yourself to pass the most important test that you're ever going to have. My whole life focus and goal is that when it's time to stand before him, I can pass. I can pass that test. That should be the main focus and the main goal of all of our lives. Yeah, you can make money. You know, he says in Deuteronomy, the 8th chapter, 18th verse, I think it is, somewhere in there, he says, I'm going to give you power to gain wealth because of the covenant with Abraham. Yeah, you do have that capability to gain wealth. And a lot of times people pursue their life, and that's all they're trying to do is to gain wealth. How much wealth can I get? How many cars? How many houses? How many material things? And their whole focus for life is in that direction. Then what does Yahusha say? Yahusha says, you know, what would it profit a man if he's to gain the whole world and then lose out? You know, it's not going to profit you anything. So when he does give us power to gain wealth, I have to keep everything in balance. Because even as I'm gaining wealth and I understand the parable of the pounds and the talents and how he wants us to be productive, he wants us to produce. He even compares us to trees, right? And that one tree, when he made his final entrance into Jerusalem, and he went to get a fruit or leaf off of that tree, and there was nothing there, and he cursed it because he wants you to gain. He wants you to be fruitful. He's given you his Ruach, and with the Ruach, you have nine fruits of that. You have 9 things that you can use, those 9 attributes of the Ruach, and you should be able to go through life, be productive, do what he wants you to do, fulfill the ministry he has for you, so that at the end, when I get to my end, and I know I have to meet him, and when I get to my end, I can feel confident. And that's where a lot of people, and I'm just remembering some words that was spoken to me that I thought was very profound. I thought was very profound. But a lot of people live their life, and then right towards the end, then all of a sudden there's sorrow, there's regret, there's pain, there's grief. But if we do it right, we understand, like it says in the book of Psalms, beautiful in the sight of Yahuwah is what? The death of his saints. I mean, because this is somebody, someone, some man, some woman that have purposed their life, all through their life, They've prepared themselves for that one final event. We have to keep a balance. You can't get out of balance. You can't be so holy, so righteous, because Solomon says in Ecclesiastes, too much righteousness is not good. I mean, you can go overboard. Even in your study, he says much study is going to make you mad. That's what he says. So there just has to be a balance in life. I can't go too far to the left and too far to the right. I got to be balanced in life, because you can be so holy and so righteous that you're not good for nobody. You're not good for nobody. You're not helping nobody. Your only focus is on yourself and about, oh, I'm just so holy. Oh, I'm just so righteous. And you're so focused on that you're missing out on everything around you that actually makes you holy and makes you righteous, makes you good. And so just as important as it is to prepare myself to meet my Messiah, I have to understand my deportment. I have to understand that. I have to understand who I am. I have to understand, and this is for everybody. You have to understand who you are. You have to understand that many of you, the words you speak are very powerful. He says that death and life is in the what? Power of the tongue. You know, you have to understand that. I got to be able to balance everything out. I can't. You have some people that's very vicious with their tongue. You know, and then you have those who, we don't let everything go. So I have to know, what's that one thing about wisdom and courage or something? There's a saying out there, I can't recall it right now, but I have to know when to speak, what to speak, and how to speak it. And all of that you get when you gain knowledge and understand. He says, so I'm going to give you rahas so that they can feed you with knowledge and understanding. Because let's hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Let's just hear the conclusion of the whole matter. The conclusion of the whole matter is to fear Yahuwah and keep his commandments. He says this is the whole duty of man. Because at the end, when you get there, you're going to have to give an account. And you're not going to be able to deceive Yahuwah, Yahusha. It's impossible. You might as well do something, kick that ball out. I mean, you're not going to be able to trick him, or because you know how a lot of us are, we carry fronts. We have a certain mask, and so we and I'm not saying to be, just bear yourself out to everybody. No, I'm not saying that. But when I say a mask, I'm mainly speaking of deception. I heard years ago, thing, be what you are. I mean, just what you are, be what you are. And a lot of times, a lot of times we want to wear masks, and where do you see those masks? When you see an icon and it has a couple of masks, what does that stand for? Theater. And in theater, I can be anything in theater. Give me a part. I'll play Denzel Washington. I'll play Samuel L. Jackson. I mean, give me a part. I'll be, some of those other actors and stuff. Anyway, they're out there. But give me a part, and I'm going to play that part. But that's what masquerades are. That's what those masks are. It's just theater. When you see that on television, that's not them. That's not them. So sometimes I wonder when we're interacting, and I watch people, and I'm going, is that really them? Or are they wearing a mask? Are they theater? They're in theater. They're acting.
I mean, like, you should be able to
because I mean, I've seen that. I mean, in my, and I guess that's my training or my profession, to read people, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, like I have met and worked with people, and they have one face, but it's just the energy, the ruach, it's just not, something's not right.
Yeah.
And eventually.
Right. And you start to see a different person or the real one. Yeah, right.
You didn't intend it, but
Right.
that's who you are.
Right. And a lot of times, I mean, and we had that saying, fake it till you make it. But that's not going to work.
No.
That's not going to work. I mean, one thing with Abba Yahuwah, he wants you to be real and honest. Mainly honest. You have to be honest. Now, we are a certain way at home, and then when we come out in public, we're in the community, we are kind of like a different person, because we know that we have to be in the community. We had, I don't want you to see me how I am at home. But the person that I am at home is really not too much different than the person that you see here. I mean, at home I might not be as talkative. 'Cause some people think, man, he's long way, he's talking all. But my issue would tell you, when I'm at home a lot of times, I'm quiet. I'm listening. I'm meditating. I interact and everything, but I have to, when you're a feeder and a teacher, you do have to teach and feed, but don't think that I just run off at the mouth at home. I don't. But it's not a different type. I don't want to portray a different person. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to portray a different person. It's just that I know I have a ministry. And we're all different. We're not all the same. He's not a cookie cutter. How many people and they all the same? They're all identical. What a boring world that would be. I mean, that would be a boring world if we were all cut the same. We're all the same. Same background, same hairstyle, same look, same everything. Wouldn't that be? That would be. I mean, I know Yah has a sense of humor, but that would really be strange. So he makes us different people, and so we're going to have different characteristics. But the one thing that he wants is honesty. I want you to be honest. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with your spouse. Be honest with your children. Be honest when you're home. Be honest in the community. Just be honest instead of being in theater, because I tell you, especially when you go to a larger assembly and you see people and you just wonder, I mean, folks, they get into that theater and then they become something else, because they know all eyes on me, so they become something else. And that's not what Yah wants of us. So let's go to Matthew 5 and verse number 8. Matthew 5, verse number 8, because he says, wisdom is a principal thing, therefore get wisdom, but in all you're getting, we're going to get what? We have to get an understanding. In all of my getting, I have to get an understanding. So we need to be clear of this. We need to be clear of this. Only those who are pure in heart are going to see Yahuwah. Now, that word G-O-D is, if you go into the Greek, it's theos. That's not, Yahusha didn't speak Greek, so he didn't say theos. He said, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see Yahuwah. If you want to see him, and then the fact that the seeing him is not just, it's more than what Moses did when he seen his hinder part, right? Because, Moses asked that question. I want to see you. I want to see your glory. He says, you can't see me and live, not as a mortal man. As a mortal man, you would die. So he said, I'll show you my hinder part. I'll let my glory go past you. And then you could see the train or see the hinder part. And when Moses seen that, it lit him up. He was so bright in his complexion, he was like a LED bulb. And to the point where when they seen him, I could imagine that. I mean, if Ak Lloyd seen the glory of Yah pass by, and then the next time we seen him, his head was just glowing and bright like the sun. We think, man, he went nuclear or something. Something happened. We would be a little afraid. Something's not normal. We would be a little afraid, and that's where they were about Moses. So he had to cover up, but he couldn't see him in his essence. He wouldn't be able to live. Those who are pure in heart, these are the ones that will not only see the hinder parts or just a day or whatever. When he talks about seeing Yahuwah, we're talking about getting back to that place of immortality, because Abba Yahuwah is eternal. And when he originally created Adam, he created him to be immortal. He was immortal. And did not Adam walk with him? Did he walk with him in the cool of the evening? Right? So there was a time where he would just, the Abba Yahuwah would just speak to him and commune with him. And Noah was somebody who was immortal. He was immortal. So when we're talking about, only those who are pure in heart are the ones that's going to see him, those who have purity that can get to this place where they can be with Yahuwah throughout eternity. Because those that's going to be with Yahuwah throughout eternity are going to be those who are pure. You're not going to make it to this place with Yahuwah and be filthy, be immoral, be sinful, be wicked, be a transgressor, be a rebel, a deceiver, or a sinner. The sinners aren't going to make it. And sinners are what? Those who transgress against his law, his Torah. So in order for me to see him and be in that state of eternity, to where we can, it says his glory is going to light up the city. We won't need no lights there. I mean, just his very presence. I mean, to be in the presence. Even now, as mortal creatures, if we see the presence or in the presence of Yahuwah, or if it doesn't even have to be Yahuwah, it could be an angel, and the very hairs on your neck would stand up. Your whole disposition, your vibe, would change just to be in the presence of an angel. Let alone Abba Yahuwah, because for me to even think about being in his presence, you're not going to be in his presence and be tainted and stained with sin. That's not going to happen. All of that has to be purged out. And Paul understood it, Shaul understood it in the 5th chapter of Ephesians, because he says he's going to present to himself a glorious assembly without spot or wrinkle or what? It's that any such thing that's going to get a lot of people. That any such thing. Because any such thing keeps you from purity. I don't know exactly where it's at now in Ecclesiastes, but he talks about the fly in the apothecary has made the apothecary distinct. All it took was one fly, and it just messed up the whole apothecary. Just one fly. One fly. And so that pure ointment was no longer pure because of one fly. And sometimes wait a minute, Abba Yah, wait a minute, that's not fair. That's not fair because we're imperfect humans. What a high task. What a high standard that is committed unto us, to where he says one fly can spoil the whole apothecary. Oh, dead flies? Okay, dead flies. Okay, where's that at? Let's read that. Ecclesiastes 10 and 1. Okay. Ecclesiastes 10 and 1. All right? He says, dead flies cause the ointment of the apothecary to send forth a stinking savor. And so, any such thing. I mean, means,
I thought there was another scripture that just, I think it was like the hair or like or something that, something like so minute that fell into like the ointment. But I know this one, but I thought it was another one.
Yeah.
That was, that was something like, not even a devil, just minor.
yeah, something very minor,
Just gotta throw it out.
and it's no longer pure. It's just not pure. I mean, because to be pure means I don't have any dead flies. I don't have any such thing. I don't have none of that. Now, that is a tall order. Let's face it. Let's be honest. Let's just be honest with ourselves. I mean, he's setting a very high bar to where I should be very cautious. And that's why he says he wants us to walk circumspectly, which means cautiously. I have to be cautious. But again, like I said, we don't want to get out of balance. I can't leave the house because I think I might get a dead fly on me. I mean, no, you can't be out of, see, that's somebody that gets out of balance. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they don't want to leave the house. They don't want to do nothing. I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake. I can't leave the house. Well, that you're in error. That's not right. I mean, so there has to be a balance. I can leave the house and I've got power to overcome whatever comes my way in this life. So I leave the house with confidence. I'm ready. I've gotten up in the morning. I've prayed. I've prepared myself. So whatever happens today, I'm prepared for it. Because for me just to stay home because I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake or something, that's unhealthy. It's unhealthy. So when he says only the pure in heart is going to be able to see him in Matthew 5 and 8, in order for me to be pure in my heart, is to be obedient unto his word. In Proverbs, I think it's 25 and 2. No. No, Proverbs, it's the first verse. I'm trying to think, where's that at now? Because it says every word of Yah, or maybe it's Proverbs 25. I'm sorry. It came to my mind, but I just can't. It says every word of Yah is pure. And I thought it was Proverbs 25, but it's in Proverbs. Every word of Yah is pure. Of course, it says every word of G-O-D, but his name's not G-O-D. 30? Okay, Proverbs 30 and 5. Thank you. That's it. Every word of Yah is pure. So when I understand that all of the oracles, because when we look at, the pure in heart, dead flies that sends off a stinking savor. I mean, what is it? Boric acid. You put something in the boric acid, you can contaminate it. A fly, a hair, or something like that, just completely contaminates it. I think that's what it is, boric acid or something, or there's some kind of solution that it's so pure that if you put a hair in it or anything in it, you might as well throw the whole thing out because you just took out its pureness. And so when I'm thinking of that, and that the pure are only ones that are going to be able to see him, then every word of Yahuwah is pure. every oracle that comes down from the Shamayim. If I can live by those oracles that comes down from the Shamayim, you might not like me or think that, there's something wrong with me, but if I live by the oracles that comes down from the Shamayim, then I can present myself as somebody who is pure, somebody who is separated, somebody who is holy, somebody who is righteous. When I'm able to do that, because it is the oracles of Yahuwah that we have to live by. We have to live by his oracles, and it's not difficult. It's not, I jaywalked across the street. Oh, I'm out of the will of Yah. And folks get hysterical. Wait a minute, stop. Hold up. Is that an oracle of Yahuwah? If it's an oracle of Yahuwah and you transgress, then I should be concerned about it. But by me crossing the street or jaywalking, oh, he jaywalked. He ain't saved. He ain't pure. He can't go to. Wait a minute, stop. Time out. Because sometimes that's when you get out of balance. You get out of balance. I have to understand what Yah is saying to me and live by his words and live by his Torah. If somebody wants to make it in, and I understand it so clearly when he says you have to be born again. Man, I understand so clearly because when you look at Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, when you look at that, because right in those 5 books are the instructions given unto us on how we should live. The instructions given unto us is in the first 5 books of the Bible. But those first 5 books aren't the kind of books that we tend to study for righteousness, for Yahuliness, for separation. We don't tend to study those books. We tend to go to books like Galatians or Romans or Ephesians or trying to get some instructions from Shaul on how to live as if Shaul was giving us oracles. What Shaul was doing, he was a commentary to the oracles that were given in Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. When you understand his writings and his teaching, because Shaul was somebody who lived by Torah. He said, I'm a Pharisee of Pharisees. As touching the law, he was blameless. So there's nothing that you couldn't go back to Moses' teaching and indict Paul or anything. You couldn't. And that's what his commentary was when he writes his books and his letters. His commentary is, this is what Moses taught. This is the teachings of Moses. In the book of Acts, I think it's 15 and 21. Acts 15:21. And this is when they were debating about Gentiles coming in, and what do we teach the Gentiles? Because Shaul, Kepha, Jacob, who's James, Yahuchanan, all of them live by Torah. The men of this Bible, when you look at the time of our Messiah and his life and his disciples, his students, and everybody after him, they live by Torah. They would not be recognizable to the Roman religion today. The Roman religion would look at them and say, oh, you guys, I don't know, you guys are doing something that is not lawful for us to keep. That's y'all, that's not us. Because that's what Constantine did. And so, and a lot of us follow Constantine's teaching and not the teaching of the disciples or the students from Yahusha. And so when they had this council in the book of Acts, in the 15th chapter here, they had Gentiles that were being brought into the fellowship and the assembly. So they're saying, what shall we do? But anyway, in that discourse here, he says, and Moses of old time hath in every city them that preach him, being read in the synagogues every Shabbat day. So every time they would get together on the Shabbat day, they would teach from Moses' writings to teach not only Israelites who were born again, but also Gentiles who were born again. They didn't have a teaching for Israel over here and then a teaching for the Gentiles over here. That's not how they did it. The Gentiles had to come and learn of this way. They had to come in and learn of it. But you had a lot of them who didn't want to learn of it, and they went off and started their own. And we see that in 1 John, where he says, many of them came out from us, but they were not of us. Because if they had been of us, they would have what? They would have stayed with us. They would have continued with us. Because you had some Gentiles that came in, they didn't want to keep it, so they go out, and they're going to do their own thing. We're just going to believe in him. We're going to believe in your Messiah, but we're going to do our own thing. So he says many of them who were of us, they went out from us to prove that they were not of us, because if they were of us, they would have stayed with us. And we see that in First Yahukanah. So every Shabbat, so they taught Moses. So everything that you read, when you start to read all of these qualities and what's expected of us as becometh the Mohadim, and I think I said that right, the saints, I mean, as becoming saints, and we have all these different characteristics. All of that is what Paul's study was from Torah. That was his study from Torah. And so if I want to be pure in heart, and I want to be pure before the Most High, because I want to live with him throughout eternity, and I have to have a pure state, it's me keeping the commandments of Yahuwah. If I keep his commandments. It says in Matthew chapter 19 and 17. Matthew 19:17. And he said unto him, why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is Yahuwah. But if thou wilt enter into life, if you want to go into eternal life, you got to keep his commandments. So for me to be pure in heart is someone that has kept his commandments, kept his teachings, kept his word. I know how to present my body. Like Shaul says, present your bodies a living sacrifice. You got to be separated, or kodesh. He says, as a living sacrifice, holy, separated, or kodesh, acceptable to who? The Most High Yah, right? He begged the brethren, present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto Yahuwah. And he says that's only your reasonable service. So when I look at the study of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, you would have to be born again in order to really get into that teaching and to understand that when Yahusha washed me and cleansed me of my sins and transgressions through repentance, immersion in his name, being filled with the Ruach, then I go back and I learn how to live. I go back and I learn how to live. I go back and learn how to present myself. Because it's only through that teaching that comes from Yahuwah. It's the teaching that comes from Yahuwah that is required of me. Now, when Shaul said that he might present his assembly as a bride, and he even said that of the Corinthian church or the Corinthian assembly, he wanted to present the Corinthian assembly as a what unto Yahuwah? A chaste virgin. He said, I would present you as a chaste virgin because you're my work, and I want to show Abba Yah my work. I want to present you as a chaste virgin unto the Most High Yah, to where you qualify to be a bride of Yahusha. And when you look at the Corinthian church, did they have some problems? Oh, they had a lot of problems. They had a lot of problems. but through the teaching of the oracles of Yahuwah, if they were obedient unto those oracles, he even brought out one. He even said, I think in the 1 Corinthians, the 5th chapter, 6th chapter, he says, you guys are glorying, it might be 2 Corinthians, 5th chapter. He says, you guys are glorying after a man who had his father's wife. He said, what's wrong with y'all? Y'all need to put that man out. Instead, he's just a part of the congregation. Y'all feast. He said you feast with them, which on the Shabbat, they have a feast. All those other feasts. You sit down, you feast with them, as if nothing's going on. When you go back to Leviticus and read Leviticus, no, this man, it says in Leviticus, they got to be cut off from Yasharel. You got to cut this person off. But it's difficult for us to do that because we're so tied into many assemblies and stuff. We're so tied into numbers and getting along with everybody. In Acts, he says, the disciple says, should we obey Yahuwah or should we obey man? I'm going to ask that question. Do we obey Yah or do we obey man? And the disciple says, we're going to obey Yah. We're going to keep his commandments and we'll just let the chips fall where they lay. You know, and do you know they lost their life? They lost their life. But they knew, and I think that's why they were so bold and they were ready to die. Anybody know why they were ready to die? Because they asked Yahusha in his ministry, they said, what's going to happen? We left everything to follow you. What do we get? And what did Yahusha tell them? He says when he comes in his day that his disciples was going to be doing what? Sitting on the throne, judging the 12 tribes of Yasharel. So that was going to be given unto his disciples. So when they knew they was going to come back. I already got my assignment for the next life. I'm going to be sitting on one of the thrones judging the 12 tribes. I got my assignment. So they was very bold. They didn't mind dying. They didn't mind dying. They weren't of the mindset that we are. And I think many of us, because we don't know what our future is going to be, a lot of times we're in doubt and fear and we hold ourselves back and we just, I'm just so... I don't know, and I don't know if I'm saved. I don't know if I'm saved. I don't know if I'm saved. That's confusion, which comes from the devil. Because Yah is not the author of confusion. And it was prophesied that Yasharel would have confusion of faces. It does say that. Daniel 9:11 and other verses, they had, and Nehemiah, they had confusion of faces. Because if you're in a predicament and you're wrestling with, I don't know if I'm saved. I don't know if I'm, and you go into your closet and you pray in your closet and you have no confidence of who you are and where you're going to be in the next life, that's confusion. I should know. I have a ministry, I have a car, I know what I have to do. I know what I have to do. And if I do it well and I do it right, I have confidence. I know what I have to do, and if I'm successful in doing this, I know what my end's going to be. I know where I'm going to end up. So I pray with confidence. I seek him. I live. I'm not trying to live like a scaredy cat. Y'all ever heard that? A scaredy, man, you're just a scaredy cat. I'm not living like a scaredy cat. So the oracles that we are to live by, he gives them. Let's go to Leviticus. I want to read Leviticus 10 and 10. I'm going to read that one, and then I'm going to read some other verses, because if you really want to get into being set apart, it's not as difficult as they wear heel and toe out shoes. They ain't saved. Ain't got nothing to do with that. It don't have nothing to do with that. you get into the reason why we have those type of teachings and stuff. And I know a lot of pastors would put those perimeters and things. Those are what you would call the fence laws, because if somebody has a foot fetish, then they need to leave. Because if a woman has heel and toe out shoe, and then you can't wear no heel and toe out shoe. Somebody might see your toes, and they have these certain vibes. Well, they need to get out. There's something wrong with him. Well, I know some people laughing, but there's some people who have those foot. They see toes and they see toes. Well, no, you gotta get out of here, man. I mean, there's something wrong with that, right? Because we was over in Ghana. People would wash your feet for money for CDs. We had our feet washed. I think I gave them 10 CDs or something, which is 10 to 1. I mean. But 10 CDs to them to wash your feet, and you got folks, keep your toes in your shoes. Keep all your foot covered. It's 90 degrees outside. What you talking about? I'm wearing sandals. Oh, you ain't saved. You're going to bust hell wide open. See that stuff, that's not it. That's not it, y'all. Our Messiah wore sandals, or a lot of times barefoot. And when he walked into somebody's house, they washed his feet. That's just what they did. So we get all these fence laws that has nothing to do. It's up to me to be obedient unto Torah, the oracles that came down from the Shamayim. And I would say, if somebody's got a foot fetish, we need to pray for them. They need to get right. Instead of making everybody wear closed shoes and it's 90 degrees outside because of one person. No, it's not like that. It's not like that. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm just, my job is to feed you with knowledge and understanding. It doesn't mean that our women should be loose in their clothing. And we are very hard on our sisters on how they should present themselves. We're harder on them than we are on men, on how to present themselves when they go out in public and when they leave the house. And I think that, and we have to, I got to be careful. We have to measure this with wisdom and knowledge and understanding. That's how we have to measure it. But if I'll just use myself, my wife, that's my wife. So I have a certain understanding of how I want her to present herself. You don't own her. She's a woman. She can do whatever she want to do. Not in my house. Maybe you're like that. And that's fine if you're like that. But it's not like that in my house. I want her to look like a lady. I want her to be a lady. I don't want her looking like Butch. No, I don't want her looking like. No, I want her to be a lady, look like a lady, dress like a lady, be feminine and everything like that, cover herself. It's for my eyes. It's not for yours, and then she can present herself, let her buy her clothes and everything. But she knows that, okay, just as long as it's not revealing, and that's my Isha. And so every man, he has his. Now, I know there's some women out there, ain't no man gonna tell me what to wear, what to do. Are you married? No, I'm single. That's why. Because most women who are like that, they ain't got no man. They ain't got no man. I'm aware. How dare him tell me? My husband don't tell me what to wear. Maybe he should. Yes. Exactly. So excuse me. We have to measure everything with knowledge and understanding, right? So he says here in Leviticus 10:10, he says, and that ye may put difference between holy and unholy, and between unclean and clean. Now, a lot of people, it depends on your perspective, what you think is holy and what's unholy, or what you think is clean and what is unclean. Right? So, and this is where you have a lot of that area, a lot of that gray area, right? Where what might be holy to one person is unholy to another. What might be clean to one person is unclean to another. And so a lot of people take this verse here and they can go off on a lot of different tangents. Some people might say or believe that having a certain model of vehicle determines whether you're holy or not. Because it used to be like that back in the day, or, what type of furniture you have in the house, or, a lot, even colors, certain colors. You can't wear that color, and I think as far as color in our clothing and stuff, you just have to find something that looks good on you, something that, enhances your beauty. And everybody might not look good in light blue, powder sky blue or whatever. I'm just throwing that out there. Somebody might look good and somebody don't, but you just find something that accents and enhances your beauty. But for me to specifically say you can't wear red, I can't wear red? No, because if you wear red, that's what they wear in the red light district. That's what them whores wear red. You can't wear red. Have y'all ever heard that? Yeah, that's what we used to hear that. It's like, whores wear red? I thought, red is just a color everybody wear. But that's something that was put in us, So it's like, so when you have one person who thinks, well, this is what holiness is and this is the standard. This is what holiness is and this is what the standard. Then you got all these different, you can go up and down the street here in all these different churches and you got a different standard all over. Because you leave it up to man to make the definition. But if you leave it up to Yah, leave it up to Yah to make that definition, like he says here, and that ye may put a difference between holy and unholy, and between unclean and clean. And he's telling them. Now, this is for the priests and the high priests before they go into the tabernacle, right? To do any ministry. He says, do not drink wine nor strong drink, thou nor thy sons with thee, when ye go into the tabernacle of the congregation. It wasn't illegal for them for all their life. It was illegal for them to have drunken wine or strong drink and then go into the tabernacle of the congregation, because what did they have to do when they go into the tabernacle of the congregation? They had to do all the sacrifices and everything. And he says, if you are intoxicated or if you have, you've been drinking wine or strong drink and you go and do this, oh, you're going to die. That's just Abiyah. Now, he didn't say they couldn't do it because the people paid tithes in wine. And they would give their wine unto the Levitical priesthood. And so it wasn't that they could not drink wine. It's just that you can't drink wine and then go into the tabernacle and do your work, do your service. You do that, you're going to die. And it shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, talking to the Leviticus, the Levites, because what did they have to do? You have to put a difference between holy and unholy. It was the Levites that did the teaching. Until you get to, like we read, our top verse, we read in Jeremiah where he says, I'm going to give you rahas, right? Now, the rahas I give you, they might not be from the Levitical priesthood. It doesn't say anything about being from the Levitical priesthood. But when he formed the Levitical priesthood for the nation of Yasharel, because you'll understand when you get to Jeremiah, anybody know what was going on with Jeremiah? Because we're going through some time here, because a lot of people might not understand it. But Jeremiah is dealing with what? The time that they were what? They were in captivity. There were a time when they were in captivity. At one time, he says, go on into Egypt, build your houses there. You're going to be there 70 years. Don't talk about you coming back to, no, you're not. You're going to be there 70 years. So build your house, have your family, everything like that. He told them specifically. So there was a time where he was giving them, okay, the Levitical priesthood is not going to do the teaching to all of Yasharel, especially if Yasharel has been scattered. So they've been scattered to the four corners, scattered like that. You don't have, I ain't going to get no teaching until I find a Levite. You might never find a Levite. So he says, I'm going to give you rahas according to my heart. And then they're going to feed you with knowledge and understanding, because they're going to be able to bring you back to where? Like he said, they're going to bring you back. We read that in Jeremiah 3:14. They're going to bring you back to, he says, oh, backsliding children, I'm married unto you, and I'm going to take you one of a family, two of a city, or two of a family, one of a city, and they're going to bring you where? Oh, Zion. They're going to bring you to Zion. Right. They're going to bring you to Zion. So that's the purpose of it, is to bring you back to Zion and to get you ready for your ultimate event. And that you might put a difference between unclean and between unclean and clean. And that you may teach the children of Yasharel all the statutes which Yahuwah has spoken unto them by the hand of Moshe. If I learn what is given unto Moses to teach for generations to generations to generation, then I'll be able to be obedient unto him. I'll be hearing his oracle, his word, and if I obey his word, I can be pure. I can be pure. In Leviticus, let me show you how people get off. Leviticus chapter, now this is a very important chapter, chapter 11, and I'm going to go down to verse number 44. Leviticus 11:44. Now, who knows what Leviticus 11 is about? Exactly. Leviticus 11 is dealing with clean and unclean meats. That's what it's dealing with. And so when people look at this, put a finger, a fingerprint or whatever, a note right here. I want to go to Leviticus 20:26, and we're going to go right back. Leviticus 20:26. He says, and ye shall be holy unto me, for I, Yahuwah, am holy, and have severed you from people, that ye should be mine. Now, that's verse 26, right? And see, a lot of people like to get that verse and stand on that verse only. Holiness or hell, right? You can't be Yah's people if you ain't holy. And they just hammer it. And they just, you can't take one verse. Let's read this and understand what he's talking about. So let's go to verse number 24. But I have said unto you, ye shall inherit their land, and I will give it unto you to possess it, a land that floweth with milk and honey, for I am Yahuwah your Elohah, which have separated you from other people. Now he separated Yasharel when he called them out of Egypt. And he told them, I'm taking you out of Egypt. In Leviticus, I think it's 18:1. I'm taking you out of Egypt. I don't want you to be like Egypt, where you came from. But I don't want you to be like these people where you're going into. Those land that you're going into, I don't want you to be like them either. That's why I'm giving you these laws and statutes, because everything that he gave Yasharel, those other nations, they were going against this already. Those other nations they already had their gods. They ate monkey brain. They did all of that. There was no sanctity between a man and a woman. Because when you understand, I was reading that book, Phoenix Unger, Archaeology and the Old Testament, and with some of their gods and in their worship, even married men, you had to bring women and a lot of times your virgin daughters to these men. There was no sanctity of husbands and wives and children to where you could protect your children. Oh, no, you had to give up your daughters. That was a part of their religious practice. Some of them still do it now. Over in Africa, they still have it now, where they have these big galas and big feasts and everything else, and the virgins will come, and the man gets to pick out a virgin. And I mean, so they still do some of that even today, maybe not as bad as it was back then, but they practice some of that today. So with Abba Yah, he says, no, y'all don't do that. Oh, not my people. You go into this land, but he even told how a man's supposed to be with his woman. Mankind ain't supposed to lie with mankind like he does with womankind. Don't lie with your daughter. Don't lie. Don't give your daughter up to whoredom and prostitution. I mean, he was teaching them that. He says, y'all don't do that. Why? Because all those other nations are doing it. That's what they're doing. I don't want y'all to do it. Because if you obey my commandments, then the people in the world is going to know that I've severed you. You're different. I'm severing you from all these other nations. Those other nations practice it, but not you. Not my people. And it should be like that today. Oh, we see all kind of stuff out there. I mean, the world is full of debauchery. I mean, it's full of wickedness and evil. I mean, it's full of it. They just imagine it. Now it's AI stuff. I mean, it's just full of it. But he says, not my people. Not if you're going to be my people. You got to, because when we obey his commandments, we're severed from everybody else. So let's see what he's talking about here. Verse number 25. Ye shall therefore put difference between clean beasts and unclean, and between unclean fowls and clean. And ye shall not make your souls abominable by the beast. And then we see that in Isaiah chapter 66, when they were hiding behind every tree, eating what? Swine and the mouse and the abominable. It says the abominable. Make your souls abominable by beast, or by fowl, or by any manner of living thing that creepeth on the ground, which I have separated from you as unclean. And ye shall be holy unto me, for I, Yahuwah, am holy, and have severed you from other people, that ye should be mine. This is what he's talking about. So when we go back to Leviticus 11, verse number 44, Leviticus 11:44, and he says, now this whole chapter, if you go up to the beginning and you read all the way down, and then you'll see what he's talking about. You see what? For I am Yahuwah your Elohim, ye shall therefore sanctify yourselves, and ye shall be holy, for I am holy. Neither shall ye defile yourselves with any manner of creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. For I, Yahuwah, that bringeth you out of the land of Egypt to be your Elohim, ye shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. So this is what he is talking about when he talks about the severance, when he talks about sanctification. And so now you have people who don't even abide by this. They don't abide by this at all. But they'll convince the world that they're saved, even though they don't abide by this, which makes you separate. It makes you separate. Oh, it can't be that. It's got to be something else. No, this is what he was talking about. This is what he's dealing with in this context. He's dealing with this in this context because you defile your own self. And people do it all the time, and they don't realize it because they haven't been taught. They want to take one verse instead of just reading the whole thing and reading. How is he using it in this context? What is he talking about here? Because when he talks about your body, you can defile your body with unclean meats. Oh, no, that ain't right. All this other stuff. But Uh-huh. Right, right. But when we look at it, how it's being used in its context, then I get a clearer message and a clearer understanding of what he's talking about. Because when he says, you know who used this? I'm talking about after our Messiah's resurrection. You know who used this? First Peter 1 and 16. Verse 15 and 16. 1 Peter 1, 15 and 16. But as he which hath called you is holy, so be ye holy in all manner of conversation. That conversation is dealing with your lifestyle. Your lifestyle. I have to be separate in my lifestyle. My whole lifestyle has to be different. I'm not ashamed of being different. You guys don't do, no, I don't. I don't want to. I'm not, it's not something that I desire, because when it gets into your lifestyle, your manner of being, my code of conduct, my code of conduct should be right along with the oracles of Yahuwah. That should be my code of conduct. As long as I'm following the code of conduct that Yahuwah gives me, I'm going to be all right. Well, I never lived like that in all my life. Well, you have to be born again. Because none of us started out like this. None of us. We all had to be born again. And more than what? I was born again in February 2016. I was born again. My whole life changed. My whole mindset. Because when he talks about repent in the Greek, it means you got to change your mind. Your whole mindset has to change. I repented. I was born again. The whole Torah, or the instruction book, opened up to me. And prophecy. Started to learn prophecy. And it just all began to open up to me. I was born again. That's a born again experience. I didn't start out like this. My manner of life was totally different. But when he woke me up, then I was born again. So he says, because it is written. When he says, because it is written, in verse 16, you know where he got this from? The verses that we read. He went back to Leviticus. When he says, because it is written, when you go back and see, where did Peter or where did Kepha get this? Where it says, be ye holy, for I am holy. Well, we read them. We read them in Leviticus. That's where we read them, because that's what he's dealing with, because that's what they used to teach even those who were coming in. You have to understand that Yasharel, as a nation, had gotten so far away from the oracles of Yahuwah. They got so far away from it. Wait a minute, I got to pull y'all back. I got to get y'all back. And that's why he says in Isaiah, the 10th chapter, verse 20, he says, only a remnant's going to come back. I mean, we're trying to get them back. Come on back, y'all. We got to get back to this. We got to get back to the oracles, the teachings of Yahweh. We got to get back to that. Only a remnant's going to come. Because he had already prophesied. Only a remnant's going to return. Even though, Yasharel scattered to the four corners, they're all over, only a remnant is going to return. And that remnant is the ones that he's going to gather and gather unto himself. So another verse I'm going to get in my closing, and this is Ezekiel. I think it was 20, 26. No, it must be Ezekiel. Maybe it's 26. Let's see. No, it's got to be Ezekiel 20. I think it's Ezekiel 20. I'm trying to see now. Oh, Ezekiel 22. 22 and verse 25 and 26. Ezekiel 22, 25 and 26. He says, there is a conspiracy of her prophets in the midst thereof. like a roaring lion, ravening the prey. They have devoured souls. They have taken the treasure and precious things. They have made her many widows in the midst thereof. Talking about his people. Notice now who is doing this. Who is doing the conspiracy? It's the prophets. It's the prophets that are doing the conspiracy. Her priests, now remember we read in Leviticus. Now you have to read all of Leviticus because there's more in Leviticus than Leviticus chapter 11. There's more in there. And so you have to read the whole book. But in Leviticus 19:18, everybody should know this one. Leviticus 19:18. Anybody knows what that says? Thou shalt not bear a grudge against thy neighbor, for thou shalt do what? You shouldn't bear a grudge with your neighbor. Thou shalt love. Right. That's Leviticus 19:18. Leviticus 19:18. And Yahusha, so when you look at the two commandments that everything hangs on, you have to go to Leviticus and Exodus, Leviticus and Deuteronomy. You'll find the two commandments that everything hangs on. The first one is Hear, O Israel, Yasharel is one Yahuwah, thou to love him with all thy heart, all thy mind, all thy soul, all thy strength, him only shalt thou serve. The second is like unto the first, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. That's the law. You'll find that in Exodus, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy. That's where you're going to find it. So he says, her priests have violated my law and have profaned mine holy things, because when we read Leviticus, that was the charge given to them to teach Yasharel. That was their charge. He even told them, we read it, you got to teach Yasharel, you got to teach your children these statutes. So he says, they violated my law and have profaned my holy thing. They have put no difference between the holy and profane. Neither have they showed difference between the unclean and the clean. There's no difference between holy and profane, because when you get into the conduct of Yasharel, when you look at Leviticus, you're talking about what was profane before the Most High, and then what he taught his people to live, which would be holy. Because he talked about all those other people and what they were doing. He dealt with it. And he says, y'all better not be doing that. Better not be doing that. And they had gotten into witchcraft. They had gotten into serving other gods, Molech. They gave their seed over. They had gotten into all kind of stuff. And it's just like we do today. A lot of times we're so into, the worst thing you can get into is Hollywood. That's probably about the worst thing you can get caught up in. And all this stuff that we see on TV and AI, you can't believe everything you see. And to get caught up into all of that. And they draw our children into a culture where it's just lawlessness. There's no value for our sons. There's no value for our daughters. They have no value for our daughters. They want to turn them all out. Not only our daughters, they want to turn our sons out. That's the culture. They're not following the law. And you try to tell people, hey, time out, we can't do that. We're as a people, we can't do that. In order for me to live amongst you as neighborly and as a community, we can't do that. We can't partake in those kind of things. Her priests have violated my law and have profaned my holy things. They have put no difference between holy and profane. They have neither have they showed difference between unclean and the clean. And when he's talking about unclean and the clean, you have to go back to where he says that, and that's what he's talking about. And have hid their eyes from my Shabbats. We ain't keeping no Shabbat. We ain't got to keep the Shabbat. Hid their eyes from my Shabbat, and now I'm profane among them. And it's like that today when you tell people, hey, we got to keep the Shabbat. We ain't got to keep no Shabbat. Every time they say that, you don't have to keep it, he's profane. That's what he says here. And I am profaned among them. This is an oracle coming from Yahuwah. So every time people talk about, I don't know why y'all doing that. Y'all ain't got to keep that. They're profaning his name. He's being profane among them. Because that's a sign of who his people are. He said, I'm going to put a mark on y'all. I'm putting a mark on you. And that mark on you, you keep my Shabbat, you got a mark on you. And boy, is it evident today. I mean, it's more evident today than probably back then, because people will talk about you and tell you ain't got, you are marked. We are marked for keeping the Shabbat. But that's what Yah said. I'm put a mark on you. So I'd rather have a mark on me by Abiyah, that I keep the Shabbat, as opposed to just going the Broadway and just doing everything, because their whole, and you should ask them sometime, what's your eschatology? How do you think all of this is going to finish up? When you look at the signs of the times, you look at this nation, you look at all the nations around the world, you look at the wars, you look at I don't know, United States is not looking real good right now. They're not looking real good. And even our financial system, there's starting to be some strains on it and everything. And just prepare yourself. We're going to have to prepare ourselves. But you ought to ask them, what's your eschatology? How do you think all this is going to finish up? I'm talking about those in the Roman religion, because it's going to, they believe that the nation over there, most of them, I should say, that I know personally, believe that the nation over there are the chosen people of Yahuwah, and they're not. And so everything about eschatology now is skewed. You're going to miss the mark, because they're not the people, and they are actually adversarial to the United States, even though the United States call them their top ally. But they're adversarial, and they're going to split this nation. They're going to tear this nation up. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess. And it's going to happen soon. I know a lot of people, you better hope we get some different kind of leadership, because with the leadership we have right now, they're going to rip this nation up. This nation, we're about to fall. It won't be too much longer before Yahuwah gathers his people, because he's got to take his people out of here before this nation goes down the toilet. He's going to take his people out here. That's what I believe. How come you say that? Why you believe that? Because it's prophesied that in Jeremiah 29:14, and also in Ezekiel chapter 20 is prophesied about what he's going to do with his people. So if you look at Jeremiah 29:14, and he says, and I will be found of you, saith Yahuwah, and I will turn away your captivity, and I will gather you from all the nations and from all the places whither I have driven you, saith Yahuwah, and I will bring you again into the place whence I caused you to be carried away captive. And then in Ezekiel, because that hasn't happened yet, and then Ezekiel 22, no, I'm sorry, Ezekiel 20. We were just there in 22. Ezekiel 20 and verse number 33. As I live, saith sovereign Yahuwah, surely with a mighty hand and with stretched out arm and with fury poured out will I rule over you, and I will bring you out from the people and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out, and I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face. This has not happened yet. Like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, saith sovereign Yahuwah. And this is what we're trying to get you prepared for. Every Raha should be preparing his people to meet Yahuwah face to face. And when you meet him face to face, that's going to be Yahusha. That's who you're going to see. Being prepared to meet him face to face. And I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. So everybody's going to be brought back. If you make it, you're going to be brought back into the covenant. And I will purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgress against me. So all of the rebels and those who transgress, he says, I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Yasharel. And ye shall know that I am Yahuwah. So he's going to take them out of the land, but they're not going into the promised land because they don't pass the test. They're not going to pass the test. When he pleads with them face to face, that's the judgment. They don't pass. So that's what he means in Matthew 13. Where's my time? Okay, I'm done. This is it. Matthew 13:47. He says, again, the kingdom of Shamayim is like unto a net that was cast into the sea and gathered of every kind, which when it was full, they drew to shore and sat down and gathered the good into vessels, but cast the bad away. So shall it be at the end of the world. The angel shall come forth and sever the wicked from among the just, and shall cast them into the furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. This is the dragnet, where he's going to get all those, gather his people and everything. And you'll notice that those that he gathers unto him, you've got those who cleave to the house of Yasharel, those who are part of Yasharel, the sojourners, he's going to gather them. But then he's going to get rid of all the bad, just like he says in Ezekiel. All the rebels, transgressors, getting rid of them, tossing them out. And then I'm going to keep the good ones, and they get to go into the kingdom, which is going to be here on earth. There's going to be 1,000 years of peace. All nations are going to come to Yasharel, to Jerusalem, to learn of the ways. There's going to be 1,000 years of peace. They're going to keep, we see in Zechariah 14, they're going to keep the Feast of Tabernacle. In Isaiah, but Isaiah 66 now, that's going to be on the new heaven, new earth. Isaiah 66. Because he even talks about it in Isaiah 65. He's seen a new heaven, a new earth. Then you go into Isaiah 66. So these are the time period, the events. You have a number of people that's not going to make the kingdom. They're not going to reign with him for 1,000 years. Because there's going to be 1,000 years of peace on this earth. It says that. It's going to be 1,000 years of peace on this earth. If you reign with him for 1,000 years, that means you have eternal life. You've been given eternal life, because you can't reign with him 1,000 years in this body. You only last 70, 80, 90 years. He's going to reign for 1,000 years, and he even says in Revelation, those who make it through that tribulation, they're going to reign with him 1,000 years as kings and priests in that order of Melchizedek as kings and priests. Then you're going to have a new heaven and new earth. That's when the city, what they call heaven, that's when that city comes down on the new heaven and new earth, and it's going to be glorious. And all those who keep the commandments will be able to go into that city. But that city's not coming down till after the 1,000 years of peace. So these are the things that are going to happen as we go forward. So there's not going to be no pre-trib rapture. I know a lot of people believe that. I believed it for a long time because that's what I was taught. That's what I was taught. But there's not going to be no pre-trib rapture. Yahusha said after the tribulation. In many places we can see after the tribulation. And even Paul, when he's dealing with 1 Thessalonians 4:17, he's dealing with after the tribulation. After the tribulation is when you're going to have the resurrection. Those who survived, because you're going to have a lot. When it says those who are alive and remain, if you look at that word remain, that means these people survived. What did they have to survive? They survived the tribulation. You have some that's not going to make it through the tribulation. Then you're going to have those who do make it through the tribulation. And this is what I believe. I'm trying to piece everything together, because you're going to have a lot of people that's not going to leave Babylon, and they're going to have to endure through the tribulation. But if you survive, then he's going to snatch you away. He's going to catch you away and bring you over into the land. But you're going to have those who are going to be ready to go. In fact, you got some that is leaving already, and they're going back. I seen a map of the United States. And it was a map, and somebody might want to ask AI or try to look at this map, but it was a map of the black Americans. Where are the black Americans in the United States? And if you notice, the east coast, southeast coast in the south is where all of the black Americans are migrating to. From Texas to Florida up to like Virginia, all that area. That's where they're migrating to. And it's fascinating, because it's like they're all coming to this place where the water is, to where they can part and leave. So it's not all, but it's the majority of it. Because if you look at, what's the population, where is the population of the black America, and you'll see it, and because I've seen a map of it, and I'm going, man, wow, look at that. That's where it's like they're ready to leave. we're packing up. We're ready to get out of here. When it's time to go, we're gone. We're gone. But you're going to have some that's going to stay. They're going to be here. And if they stay here, then they're going to have to survive. They got to survive. And that's why Shaul says, we that are alive and remain, if you can survive, but you already hit, if it's hard, if you can't run with the footmen, how you going to run with the horsemen? If you have a hard time making it now, how you going to make it? Folks ain't going to give up their head. They're going to take the mark. But if you can survive, then there's going to be that other gathering that he's going to get for his people before the 1,000-year period starts. All right. Any questions, comments? Any questions, comments? I don't know. There's none out there. Okay.
None on Facebook. YouTube.
Oh, there was one question. Can you explain profane? Did y'all see that? It says, can you explain profane? So let's look at that real quick. In Leviticus 11, okay, that word is not there. So let's go to Leviticus, 10:10? No, not there. What was it, Ezekiel? I didn't see the Leviticus.
20 and 26, was it?
Oh, okay. Well, let me go back. Leviticus 20:26.
The first is mentioned 18 and 21 of Levi.
Okay. 18:21.
Yeah.
Profane. Okay, because I know it's mentioned in Ezekiel.
It's H 2490.
You said 18 and what?
1821.
18:21.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Profane. And that's H2490?
Yes, sir.
All right. And it's the root word is a hole is drilled with a tool called a bow or drill. That's the root word. So let's go down to how it's used in that context, which is B and V. Go down to B and V. Here's B. Yeah, because this is okay. Because that's dealing with how they would, with what they did with Molech, and how they would bore themselves or the sacrifices and stuff. So let's look at. No, it doesn't. It doesn't say it profane there.
I got 22, 26. Come on with the priest?
When he says profane, he want to know what's profane. That is in 22, and
The priest did it?
he want to know what the word profane. So Ezekiel, 22:26, and let's look up profane. Same thing, H2490. So I would have to.
Oh, there it is. There's one of the definitions right there, the common.
A common person or thing that is not set apart for a specific function.
'Cause I looked
Profane. There, yeah.
I looked up what does the Bible, what does profane mean? And it gave two. It said an action, word, or attitude that treats something that is sacred or holy with irreverence, like it's common or unholy.
Yeah.
So 18 and 21, the profane is there.
1821.
Leviticus 18, 21.
It's probably the same thing that we're.
Yeah.
And then Leviticus 19 and 12.
Ooh, it even says violent
Leviticus
religious customs.
1912.
That's Google's definition.
Let's stay
Yeah. So you'd have to look at all of these because it's the same H2490. You got a place, person, or thing that is not set apart for a specific function. would be profane or unholy. A perforated cake, an ornament that is put through a hole, an ornament that is put through a hole, like an earring. They said earrings can be profane. An ornament that is put through a hole, because when they would be a slave for somebody, like if you was a Hebrew, you would bore your ear, but a boring of the ear was not that little pinhole as you put an earring in. The boring of the ear, and you see some people who bore their ear, and they put these big old loops, these big old ring. I don't know how they get that lobe to stretch like that. But then you got this big old door. I mean, some people, you can put your whole finger through there and everything. Man, wow, that's pretty. But that's what they would do, because when you see somebody in Israel that had their ear bored like that, you knew that they were somebody's slave forever. They were somebody's slave. It's not the same thing as a earring that the women would wear earrings in Israel. It's not the same thing, because he even says in Ezekiel 16 how he adorned Israel. And one of the ways he adorned them was in their jewelry, to make the women look, to enhance their beauty. But it went to their head. And they went and played he said, here, I made you beautiful, then you went and cheated on me. It's like a man gives his wife, hey, I'm making you beautiful. I'm giving you everything. What, you going to go cheat on me? Give it to me back. Give it all. That's how he did. That's how he did Israel. He said, give back to me. And how do we know that? Is when you read Isaiah chapter 3, because it talks about the women and how he just turned their women over. He even talks about the crispy pin and everything. Your hair falls out. He just, when the women of Yasharel were beautiful unto him, and then because they cheated on him, then he says, all right, I'm done with it. That's in Isaiah chapter 3. Yes.
I looked up the word of profane.
Yes.
And it has a Latin meaning, which means and which means before or outside, and meaning temple or sanctuary. Therefore, profanus, literally meant before the temple or outside the temple.
Outside of it.
Initially referring to anything secular or outside the sacred place of the temple, which later evolved to include desecrating what is holy.
Right.
So it's got a Latin root.
Yeah. Yeah. And
so it's not that profane. It's not Hebrew.
it's not Hebrew. Yeah. Yeah. It's a Latin word. But what we see there is anything that was not set apart for a specific use is profane to Yah. So he made Israel and gave them structure and what they're supposed to do. Well, if you don't do it, then you're profane. And we see that with Esau. Because he says, Esau, you're profane to me. You don't want to keep none about, you don't want to do nothing I say. If you're somebody who doesn't want to do anything that Yah says, in his eyes, you're profane. You don't want to keep my commandments? You don't want to keep my Sabbath? You don't want to keep my Torah? Oh, you're profane. We look at profanity as using certain words. Ooh, they must be using profanity. That's not what he's talking about, which I don't think you should use that kind of language anyway, is because it like the Latin, it's just outside the norm. It's profane. It's not something that's sacred. So I don't think, and I don't like it when I hear all that junk. I don't, it disturbs me. But it's out there. You're going to hear it, but it's not like I'm, come use profanity words so I can hear you. It's music to my ear. I don't do, that's not how it is. But we do hear it, we do hear it. Just that we know that that's outside of what is sacred. It should be outside of what is sacred in your own house. I got to set parameters up for my own house. That's just outside of it. That's just profane. We don't do that up here. All right. Any other questions or comments? So profane in a Hebraic sense, we'll probably have to dig a little deeper, because it's, the way Yah looks at it, anything that is not set apart for him is profane. And that's how he gave Esau. He gave that definition for Esau. He was a profane person unto Yah, because he didn't want to keep he didn't want to do what Yah says. All right, no questions, comments? We're going to bring this to a close. We say shalom, shalom to all you, those who have joined us in the digital house. We certainly pray that you have a Baruch night and a shalom rest. And then Yah wake you up in the morning and get you started on your day. We all got work to do. We got some feasts coming up. September 21st, Kingdom Life Assembly will be here, September 21st. And we do have a short program, and we're just going to be together, feasting, having a good time. Most High willing, the weather will be permitting. We got some nice days now. I'll take some rain now so we can have a nice day on the 21st, but we don't control that. Yah does, but we're hoping for a nice day on the 21st. And then October 1st at 4 p.m., we'll be here, probably down here in this setting. We'll have Zoom set up, and we'll come off of our fast. September 30th, put this on your calendar, 6 p.m., September 30th, we start our fast. We come off our fast October 1st at 6 o'clock right here. So bring your, everybody brings something. The women will get together and decide, let's do this. Let everybody bring something. Women get together and do that. And so we'll come off our fast at 6 o'clock. We will have a service in Zoom. Zakim Bateman, Zakim Sauls, Zakim Hill, Zakim Johnson, and myself, we're all going to just do a real quick teaching so we can kind of have some songs, some praise, and some little opening of the scrolls, and then we're going to come off our fast. Then we got Sukkot coming up. But all of this is to prepare you as we're talking about, how we have to present ourselves. We've got to be pure. We've got to be holy. We've got to be set apart. All this is setting ourselves up for atonement, the time for the atoning, because he's not letting in just anything. If you think you're just going to slide on in there, use evil and corrupt, and you're going to slide on in there, I'm sorry to disappoint you. That's not going to happen. So we got to know how to present ourselves. We got to know how to prepare ourselves for your ultimate appointment above all appointments when you meet your Savior. All right, with that.